Picture this. You're newly retired. You need $40,000 to get through the year. Property taxes, the grandkids' birthdays, that trip to see your daughter in Denver. So you log in, you pull it from your 401k, because that's the biggest account and it feels like the obvious place. Simple, right? Except the IRS just treated every dollar of that $40,000 like a paycheck. More of your Social Security became taxable. Your Medicare premium quietly went up, not today, but 2 years from now, when you've completely forgotten why, and you never saw any of it coming, because nobody sat you down and explained the one thing that matters most once you stop working, not how much you've saved, but the order you take it out. And I need you to hear this part clearly, because it's the reason you can't afford to click away. This isn't a mistake you find out about in time to fix. There's no warning letter, no alarm, no phone call from the IRS saying you've overpaid. It happens silently in the background year after year, and by the time most people notice, the money is already gone and there's no getting it back. The only people who avoid it are the ones who understand the rules before they reach for the wrong account. That's what the next 20 minutes is. So stay with me. So, how much money are we actually talking about? For a typical couple with savings spread across a few different accounts, getting this order right instead of wrong can change the final value of their retirement by $300,000 to $500,000. Read that again. Same savings, same spending, same investments. The only difference is which bucket they reached into first. One couple keeps that money. The identical couple next door hands it to the government, never realizing they had a choice. I'm Marcus Bennett, and on this channel, we take the complicated parts of retirement and lay them out plainly, the way a good friend would explain it across the kitchen table. So here's exactly what we're going to cover today. First, why your income works completely differently the day after you retire. Second, the 3 types of accounts you have and how each one is taxed. In plain English, no jargon. Third, the general order that wins for most retirees, and the one surprising move that can let you pull a big chunk of money out completely tax-free. Then we'll walk through a real couple, Jim and Carol, with actual numbers, so you can watch this work in front of you. And stay with me to the end, because the last thing I'll give you is a simple one-page checklist you can keep right next to your tax return and run through every single year, plus the one mistake that quietly destroys a surviving spouse's finances, which almost nobody talks about. That one alone could be worth more than this entire video. Grab a pen if you've got one. You may want to jot a few numbers down as we go. Let's start with the shift almost nobody prepares you for. When you were working, your income was rigid. A paycheck showed up every 2 weeks, taxed the same way every time, and you didn't think about it. The moment you retire, that stops. And something strange happens. You become the one who decides how much income you create, where it comes from, and how it gets taxed. That's a power you never had while working. And here's the catch. With that power comes the chance to get it badly wrong, because the government isn't going to stop you from making the expensive choice. Nobody is. The responsibility quietly shifts onto your shoulders the day you retire, whether you're ready for it or not. Here's the foundation. In retirement, your money sits in what I call 3 buckets, and the whole game comes down to understanding them. Bucket 1 is your taxable account, your regular brokerage account, your savings, anything that isn't a retirement account. You already paid tax on this money when you earned it. When you sell an investment here, you only owe tax on the growth, and that growth is taxed at the lower long-term capital gains rate, not the ordinary income rate. Hold that thought, because in about 3 minutes it's going to unlock something that can save you thousands. Bucket 2 is your tax-deferred account, your traditional 401k, your traditional IRA. This is where most people have the bulk of their money, and that's exactly what makes it dangerous. You got a tax break when the money went in, and it grew untouched for decades. But here's the deal you made with the government, and most people forgot they made it. Every single dollar you pull out now is taxed like a paycheck, ordinary income. Pull $100,000 out of your traditional IRA, and the IRS treats it exactly like you walked into a job and earned $100,000. That big, comforting number on your statement? A large slice of it was never really yours. It belongs to the IRS, and they will collect. Bucket 3 is your tax-free account, your Roth IRA or Roth 401k. You already paid the tax on this money, so everything that comes out, your contributions and all the growth, comes out completely, beautifully tax-free. No tax on withdrawals, and it doesn't count against you in the formulas that decide how much of your Social Security gets taxed or how high your Medicare premium climbs. This is the most valuable money you own, dollar for dollar. And in a minute, you'll see why touching it too early is one of the most expensive mistakes a retiree can make. So, look at what that means. A dollar from your traditional IRA can push you into a higher bracket, make more of your Social Security taxable, and raise your future Medicare costs all at once from a single withdrawal. A dollar from your Roth does none of that. Same dollar to you, wildly different damage. So the real question in retirement isn't which account has the most money, it's which dollar does the least harm when I pull it out. Most people get this exactly backwards. They reach for the biggest account first, and that one instinct, that one perfectly natural instinct, is what quietly costs them a fortune. Now, before we get to the order, I want to give you the surprising move I promised, because this one genuinely feels like a secret, even though it's written right into the tax code. In 2025, a married couple filing jointly can have up to roughly $96,000 of long-term capital gains taxed at a 0% rate if their other income is low enough. 0. Not 15%, not 10. 0. That means in the early retirement years, before Social Security and before required withdrawals kick in, you may be able to pull a large amount of money out of your taxable brokerage account and pay almost nothing in tax on it. Most retirees have no idea this window even exists, and it slams shut the moment Social Security and forced withdrawals begin. Miss these years and you never get them back. Now, please don't go sell your whole portfolio because a man on the internet told you to. The exact amount depends on your full situation, and you'll want to confirm it with a tax professional. But this window is real, it's brief, and it's the foundation of the smart withdrawal order. So here's that order, the version that wins for most retirees who have all three buckets. First, you spend from your taxable account and cash. Second, you take controlled withdrawals from your tax-deferred IRA and 401k, just enough to fill up a low tax bracket, no more. And third, you leave your Roth alone for as long as humanly possible, so it keeps compounding tax-free. Roth is the last bucket you touch. Now, you may have heard someone say the order is simpler than that. Just spend taxable, then traditional, then Roth in clean blocks one at a time. That's the advice floating around out there, and it's not quite right. Emptying one bucket completely before touching the next is often a costly mistake because it wastes those low-tax early years and sets up a tax bomb later. The real skill is blending, and that's exactly what trips people up. So why this order, and why the blend? 2 reasons. 1. Draining the taxable bucket first lets you take advantage of those low capital gains rates while your income is naturally low. 2. And this is the part people miss. Quietly drawing down your traditional IRA in your 60s shrinks the size of that account before the government forces you to empty it later, because here's what's waiting for you if you don't. This is where I need you to take a breath, because we're going to walk through the 3 landmines, and they're the reason this entire video matters. You're doing fine. This is just the part nobody ever explained to you, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Landmine number 1 is the Social Security tax torpedo. Depending on your total income, anywhere from 0 to 85% of your Social Security benefits can be subject to federal tax. For a married couple, once your combined income climbs past $44,000, up to 85% of your benefits can become taxable. And here's the cruel part. Those thresholds haven't been adjusted for inflation since the 1980s, so a small extra IRA withdrawal, even just a couple $1,000s, can suddenly drag a big chunk of your Social Security into the taxable column and make it feel like your tax rate doubled overnight. People pull a little extra for a vacation and accidentally hand back a piece of the Social Security check they waited their whole life to collect. Landmine number 2 is Medicare IRMAA. That stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, and it's a surcharge bolted onto your Medicare premiums when your income gets too high. In 2025, a married couple with income above $212,000 starts paying these surcharges in tiers, and crossing a threshold by even a single dollar bumps you up an entire level. $1. Worse, Medicare looks back 2 years, so a big withdrawal in your late 60s can ambush you with higher Medicare bills in your early 70s. A bill that shows up long after you've forgotten the withdrawal that caused it with no explanation attached. People stare at that higher premium for years and never once connect it to the choice that triggered it. Landmine number 3 is the one that does the most damage of all, required minimum distributions, or RMDs. Starting at age 73 for most people retiring now, the government forces you to pull a minimum amount out of your traditional accounts every single year, whether you need the money or not, and it's all taxed as ordinary income. And here's the trap. The more you let that traditional IRA grow untouched, the bigger those forced withdrawals become. So the retiree who proudly never touched their IRA, who felt responsible for leaving it alone, walks straight into their late 70s and 80s, facing enormous forced withdrawals that trip the Social Security torpedo and the Medicare surcharge at the exact same time, when they have the least flexibility left to do anything about it. Doing nothing isn't safe. Doing nothing is how the worst version of this happens. Do you see how it all connects now? The reason you spend taxable first and shrink that IRA early isn't random advice. It's how you disarm all three landmines before they ever go off. Let me make this real. Meet Jim and Carol. Jim's 67, Carol's 65, recently retired, and they live a comfortable but not extravagant life. They want about $90,000 a year to live on. They have no pension. Between them, if they claimed Social Security today, they'd get around $48,000 a year, and they've saved well. $500,000 in a taxable brokerage account, $700,000 in traditional IRAs and 401ks, and $300,000 in Roth IRAs. Now, the easy, do what feels natural approach would be to pull a little from each account every year, evenly. Most people do exactly that, and on the surface it looks fine. But watch what the smart order does instead. In their first years of retirement, Jim and Carol delay Social Security, Jim until 70, to lock in a much larger benefit for life. That means for a few years, they have very little income on paper, so they cover most of their spending from that $500,000 taxable account, realizing capital gains that largely fall into that 0% band we talked about. Then they add just enough traditional IRA withdrawals to fill up the low end of their tax bracket, deliberately moving money out of that big pre-tax pile while their rates are rock bottom. And they don't touch the Roth at all. It just keeps growing, tax-free, untouched. Then the picture shifts. At 70, Jim turns on his now larger Social Security check. Carol's begins too. Now they have a strong base of fixed income, so they need less from savings. From here, they take any required distributions first, fill the rest of the gap from the taxable account, and tap the Roth only for big one-off costs, a new roof, helping a grandchild with college, so those expenses don't shove their income into a punishing tax zone. The Roth has become their ace in the hole, the one bucket they can dip into without setting off a single landmine. Same three accounts, same $90,000 a year, but by simply changing the order, Jim and Carol smooth their taxes across their entire retirement, keep more of their Social Security, hold down their Medicare premiums, and end up with hundreds of thousands of dollars more over their lifetime. The couple next door with the identical savings, who just pulled evenly from each account because it felt sensible. They're the ones quietly losing that money. The difference between them isn't luck, and it isn't how much they saved. It's knowing what you're learning right now. And here's the part I promised, the one almost nobody warns you about. When one spouse passes away, the survivor doesn't just grieve. The very next tax year, they usually go from filing jointly to filing as a single person, and single tax brackets are far less forgiving. The same income that was comfortable for a couple can suddenly be taxed at a much higher rate for one person, often while their Social Security drops to just the larger of the two checks. It's called the widow's penalty, and it blindsides people at the worst possible moment. The smart withdrawal order, drawing down that traditional IRA early ZAG, quietly protects against this too by shrinking the forced income that would otherwise hammer a surviving spouse. If you take only one thing from today, let it be this. The moves you make now aren't just for you. They protect the person you'd leave behind. Alright, here's the payoff I promised, the one-page checklist. Keep this next to your tax return and run it every year. Step 1. List your fixed income for the coming year, Social Security, any pension, rental income. Step 2. Decide honestly what you want to spend, including travel and gifts. Step 3. Subtract one from the other. That gap is what you need to pull from savings. Step 4. Know roughly where your tax bracket ends this year. Step 5. And this is the heart of it. Fill that gap in order. Enough from your traditional IRA to fill your low bracket but not spill over. The rest from your taxable account keeping gains in that low range, and Roth only if you need it to avoid a higher bracket or a Medicare surcharge. Step 6. Recheck mid-year if something big changes. A home sale, an inheritance, a large medical bill. Do this a couple of years in a row and it becomes a rhythm, just like checking your paycheck used to be. Now, everything I've shared today is education, not personal tax advice. Your exact right answer depends on your health, your state, whether you're single or married, and what you've saved. So take this checklist and walk through it with a trusted tax professional who understands retirement income. You've worked your whole life to build this nest egg. The least it can do is work just as hard for you. And if this helped clear things up, do 3 quick things for me. Tap that like button so YouTube shows this to more folks your age who need to hear it. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We're doing Roth conversions and the Social Security tax torpedo soon. And in the comments, type the word order if you want me to build a full video walking through a withdrawal plan that looks more like your situation. I read everyone. I'm Marcus Bennett, and I'll see you in the next one.